What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. We are now on episode 3 of my Girl Boss series, and today I'm in my blazer because we are talking about interview tips. I can talk about interviewing for a very long period of time, but I narrowed it down to 8 of what I think are the most important things. As a disclaimer, I am a business major, but these tips are very general and they're what I think can apply to any type of industry that you're going into. However, do keep in mind that some of these might just be in the business world and might not apply to what you're going for. So right now I am a senior and I have been interviewing quite a bit the past few weeks for a full-time position for post-graduation. So I've been in interviews for several internships, for part-time jobs, and now for full-time programs. And over these past few years during my college career, I have tried to collect as much information as possible on interviewing so that I can share these tips with you guys. So my first piece of advice is to dress professional and appropriate for your interview. So with this, I recommend just overdressing. Who cares if you look crazy walking into that building? Once you get the job, you can then ask, hey, are we business casual? Hey, are we casual? But for the interview, you want to look professional because you want to show that you really want this job and that you care. First impressions are super important. So what you wear and how you present yourself is going to be key in those first 30 seconds of meeting the recruiter. With dressing professionally, I will say that you should try to avoid any type of jewelry that will be distracting. So like you can see, I have a necklace on, but I don't have any like bracelets that are jingling and jangling all over the place because you want the interviewer to focus on you. You don't want them to be staring at your bracelets, staring at your hoop earrings. You want them to pay attention to you and the things that you were telling them. For all my ladies, I do recommend wearing a blazer. We can do a different video on the difference between business casual and business professional, but basically I think business professional for women is just literally throwing on a blazer. Tip number 2 is to have a firm handshake and eye contact. So like I just said, the first impression is so important. So when you are first meeting with your recruiter or the person that's interviewing with you, you want to stand up, you want to give them a handshake and look them in their eye. Not like a creepy way, but you just want to show that you have confidence. Obviously, since things are virtual right now, you aren't able to shake their hand, but try to look at them, pay attention to what they're saying to you, keep that eye contact as much as you can, and show them that you're very interested in this interview and in getting this position. So with the confidence that I'm speaking about, that goes into my third tip, which is just being yourself. I know this is so hard because obviously, in an interview, you are like stressed, you just want to get the job, you're panicking. I get it, and they get it because every single person that's interviewing feels this way. But at the same time, they're trying to get to know you and your personality. So you need to try to dumb down your nerves and shine your personality through what you're speaking, what you're saying, and what you're presenting to them. Again, being nervous is completely normal, and that's what all interviewers expect out of you. But whenever you're nervous, it does hide the real you. And that's important because they're not only trying to ask you the basic interview questions to hear about your experiences, but they're trying to have a conversation with you. And they're trying to see what would it be like to work with an individual like yourself? You know, what kind of conversations can we have? Do we have something in common? So you want to show your personality off a little bit. My fourth tip is to know the company. Obviously, if you are interviewing for a position, you are interested in working for that company. However, you need to go a step further and really do some hardcore research into the company that you're applying to work at. So when looking for a company, I have been searching their values. Do their values match with mine? Can I bring that up in an interview? You know, basic facts that are on their website. Do they have a diversity and inclusion team? Are they energy efficient with their buildings? Just those things that are on their website and are visible to the public, yet other candidates probably aren't bringing up in their interview. So it's an advantage that you have knowing information about the company. Obviously, you should know the information if you want to work for them, but I really just think bringing up those little facts that you know is like a little push for them to think like, oh, they did their homework, they looked into us, they are interested in us. Tip number 5 is to know yourself and your experiences. And what I mean by this is obviously, you know, like the internships you've done, the leadership roles you've had. You know yourself extremely well, but they're going to ask you questions that are going to be difficult for you to think of at the top of your head. So an example of this is a lot of behavioral questions. So an employer might say, when was a time that you had a conflict with a team and how did you manage it? Obviously, you have had positions in the past where you've had conflict, but when an interviewer asks you that, you're not just going to think of that right away. That's something that you really should prep for, and that's what I do before all of my interviews. So before all of my interviews, I look up online just basic interview questions, and I try to just bring up examples within my own experience of potential questions that they might ask. Which brings another point. Whenever you are asked questions in an interview, you really should be bringing up your experiences as examples. So say someone asks me, what is an initiative that you started within an organization and how did you do it? I need to bring up an actual example. So I'm in this organization, we created this project, and these are the steps that we got to it. If you have those real world examples, that's going to help you so much because they know that you've dealt with experiences that you're probably going to deal with in their job, but you've dealt with those things before so that you're well aware of how to go about those situations. My tip number 6 is have a notebook and a pen with you. So in-person interviews, I usually bring like a portfolio with my resume and then notes in it. And as you are interviewing, you should have a pen with you and just jot down notes because things that they might say might just trigger a question for you that you want to ask later in the interview. And that's super important, especially with things being virtual right now. They can't really see that you have a notepad. So if you're jotting things down, that's okay. But even if they do see it, I think that that just shows that you're interested and that things that they're saying are important to you and you're jotting those things down. As you answer questions throughout your interview, the employer might respond with an experience of their own or things that they do within that company, and that can help you to think of questions to ask later down the line. So that leads into tip number 7, which is to ask questions at the end of the interview. After any interview that you do, you're going to be asked, do you have any questions for us? And your answer needs to be yes. If you say no, that just shows that you really don't care. And that's really a turnoff to employers. I usually prep questions before I have an interview, just about the company in general, about the position, things like that. But also, when you have that notebook and pen with you, like I just said, you're gonna get questions throughout the interview that you didn't have before. So you might ask about different things they have professional development-wise. You might ask for groups or things that they do outside of work. Make sure you're asking questions that you want to get the answer to, but also questions that are kind of out of the box. I feel like everybody asks, what's your day-to-day in the job? Or what's your favorite thing about the company? And those questions are okay because those are things that we really want to know. But also ask about things that other candidates probably aren't asking about. That just makes you stand out as a candidate and shows that you're going a little bit above and beyond. Lastly, make sure you follow up with a thank you. So normally companies will give you emails of the people that are interviewing you. And I would say I usually do right after the interview. I just send out like a thank you for taking the time out of your day to interview me. I hope to hear from you soon. Something like that, just to show that you appreciate their time because they have 101 things on their plate and they're looking for new talent. So that's super important just to appreciate and thank them for. I'm still in the process of getting my full-time position post-graduation, so I'm sure there's so many more things that I have to learn about interviewing, but I think these are just some basics that will help all the people who are trying to interview for any type of job. This can even be for, a waitress position, a McDonald's position. These things are just important, I think, with any interview. And feel free to share this. If you know a girl boss that is looking for a job right now, or a friend who's interviewing, send them this video, send them the tips that I'm sharing, and hopefully it will help us all land the job. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.